Hello, welcome to Real Time and Space Artist Talks with Kevin Demery. I'm your host, Kiko Lestrange. Real Time and Space is a studio space located in downtown Oakland. RTS consists of 16 studios, in which one studio is devoted to our residency program. This lecture series is a part of our residency program. Our current resident is Kevin Demery. Kevin Demery is an interdisciplinary artist from the San Francisco Bay Area. He holds a BFA from California College of the Arts and an MFA from the School of Art Institute of Chicago. In 2018, Demery received the Municipal Art League grant from SAIC and participated in the Artist in Residence program at both the Burmese Center for the Contemporary Art in Omaha and the Acri Residency in Steuben, Wisconsin. He has exhibited work both nationally and internationally at the University of Chicago's Art Incubator, Atlanta Contemporary Art Center, and the Art Berlin Fair in Berlin, Germany. I hit record shortly after the talk began, so Kevin is in mid-sentence. I do apologize, but still a compelling artist talk. Enjoy.
When really, in essence, was articulating just a reality. So I was making these pieces, thinking about that. I was living with this piece actually. So I used to wake up every morning to these nooses that I created on this assemblage painting, and I think that it was a way of me also dealing with the depression that comes in from trying to articulate this kind of reality. I feel like that's not often talked about enough because, I mean, when you think about someone on a battlefield, how can a soldier sit up and talk to you about how depressed they are? I mean, maybe they could, but do they have time? You know? And that's how I felt about it. I felt like these reflections of this violence, this self-hatred, this anger, that I felt, how could I articulate that and turn it into something that's beautiful or graceful? And oftentimes, I really liked it when I felt I fell short of that, and so that there was this awkward in between. So some of my Chicago friends know this work. This is an installation of just what my senior show looked like. And at that time, I was really getting into doing these barricades. And I'm not going to speed through. I'll slow down like towards the middle, but just giving you an idea of how much I jump around in my making process. But yeah, I was making these swing sets, and I had this feeling as if I haven't given myself room to breathe since I was 7 years old. And you know, it's funny that like I said, this idea of coming back to breathing. So I was really drawn to really high saturated colors, simplistic forms at that time, and I think that was me trying to articulate this idea of Black childhood, that Black childhood is still amidst the war zone, right? There's no safe spaces. And what does that look like? So I was getting into that, and I really liked playing around with the histories of how you can almost create barriers and create, I want to say, invisible walls in artistic spaces. Art spaces have been so historically white, not just in terms of culture, but in terms of the barriers that they set up, right? The white walls of the gallery is considered to be our neutral space. And so I was really interested in the idea of creating this work that's considered Black. And oftentimes I think Black artists are relegated to this space of saying, you make that work because it's easy for you to make that work. I know that might sound quite absurd right now because the world's eyes are on a lot of our suffering. But I think that if you were to have talked to someone 2 or 3 months ago and they were quite honest with you, which most people aren't, they would tell you that they feel like, oh, well, you know, you can make work about identity. And they just say identity is this blanketed stroke, as if our identity isn't nuanced. Your identity can be joyful, it can be freeing, but it can also be torturous. And I think I was speaking to that at that time, this idea that, okay, our identities have been quite torturous, and we're born into it. So, you know, moving forward, And jumping around, like I said, this one is actually from this year, but I think I'm always thinking about what it means to create a work that hits you kind of like a silent wave. That's how I imagine it in my mind. It has to be a silent wave. You have to see it, have a huge impact, but then it kind of flows through you. Um, and so even when I'm doing little process sketches or when I'm doing larger works, I'm thinking about how history often hits us like this, right? The farther away you get from some really horrid reality, the more it just becomes something to learn rather than something to experience. So when I was at the Bemis Center for Contemporary Arts, I really felt that I articulated that moment well when I created this piece. This piece is called I Heard God Laughing. And this is the silhouette of the youngest person to be executed in the United States. His name was George Stinney Jr., and he was falsely accused of assaulting and murdering a young white woman, young white girl, because he was 14. And, he was exonerated in 2014, I believe it was, if you look that up. He was exonerated during the Obama administration. But what's quite treacherous about that is, he's been dead since the 1940s. And so in doing this, I wanted to create something that called you to this story. Because more often than not, we live in this world where we can ignore the Black existence. We can ignore the pain and suffering that we are going through. And so I wanted to call upon those Southern, I want to say visual syntaxes. I wanted to call upon kitsch, wind chimes, and then bring you in to this darker narrative that is at the roots of what America is. And I think that in my perfect world, when it comes to what this work should be, I wouldn't just say it's something that lives in a house only, right? I would say that I want it to be a conversation piece or an altar for meditation for those who truly care about the losses of this community, whether they are from the community or not. And, when I started thinking about that in graduate school, I felt that, okay, it sharpened my mission and made it a lot more clear. When I was making these Pan-African flags, I remember I had the opportunity to bring it to a friend of mine. One of my friends was going through a really difficult time in her life, and she was pregnant at the time without much support. And she told me how much she loved these flags. She told me on Instagram about it. And I remember thinking, I said, okay, well, I'm going to bring it to you. So when I got home, I drove out to where she lived. And when I sat down with her and gave her this flag, she really showed me how the work should live, which is why I always like to show this. She couldn't be here tonight, but she's super awesome. Her name's Regal. And she picked it up. She looked so sad when I got to the house. We were talking about a couple different things. And when I opened up the box, she picked it up and said, "We are our own statues of liberty." And it was like, I still can't hold it back too much. I'm not really like, I'm not too sensitive in terms of my outward expressions, but that always hits me when she said we are our own statues of liberty, because we have to be the architects and the evidence of our own history more often than none. So I was really proud of her in that moment. I said, wow, okay, I'm glad I could be a part of this moment. So I want to take a moment in this talk. This is towards the end of the talk. We're not going to be here too much longer. This is one of my most recent works. I didn't want to interrupt the image with text, but the Gardens of Night. And when I was making this piece, Autumn got to see this piece. Autumn is in the room. But when it was being made, I felt that, and there were several different sketches of this. Kayla, who's in the room, knows that I had a different type of vision for this work. But I think why it's really powerful, especially now, is the idea of what it means to create your own memorial. And I was really thinking about coffins at that time. I mean, to think about when you look back on my work from 2014 to now and how much I've been contemplating death as a young person, this moment really showed me like, okay, I really do wake up every morning and think this could be my last day. I left the house today. I broke a meat fast not too long ago, and I went to In-N-Out Burger, to be honest. And when I went to In-N-Out Burger, my mother was so afraid because I'm quarantining with her. She was so afraid that I wasn't gonna make it back, especially because I had to go to Alameda, which is a more white version, or I would say white town, right? We know these invisible lines of what's the black town, what's the maybe Latinx town, what's a white town, especially when they're in proximity to one another. And she said to me, "You are my world. Please come back." And I had to promise her that I would come back, but I wasn't sure. And when I got home, I got our burgers, came home. There was so many police cars lined up in front of the house here in East Oakland. I said, well, I could be taken out right here. I mean, which really makes you think about Breonna Taylor, right? It's just one of those things where it's like it could come any moment. And so I really realized, okay, this is why I'm always drawing these sketches. Do you guys see that this meeting has been upgraded by the host? No? Yes, no? Okay, you see that? Can we get rid of that? Any way to get rid of that?
I think you just click OK.
Okay, let me see. I don't know if I can click OK. I'm not like a tech dude like that. Hold on, I'm gonna go. Okay, there we go. We good. All right, back in the fold. So, okay, I'm about to wrap it up in a few minutes. Basically, what I wanted to do in these last few slides is really say, my artistic philosophy, which I feel I've been articulating throughout this talk, but I think it would open up a richness to any questions you all may have when we dialogue. That I really believe that artists are witnesses, whether it's just being a witness to your own, state as a human being, your own subconscious, or being a political witness. I've always felt that I've had to record this. It was my duty. And that even when people were like, oh, well, we know this experience. I can't tell you how many people have told me that they know the Black experience and that it has been articulated so well by so many other people. And what else do you add to this narrative? And it's taken me to this year to say, I add myself to that narrative. We are sophisticated, nuanced, powerful in our own right. And so in and of itself, it's like the way I'm going to articulate to you these experiences, these feelings, it's coming from a genuine place. It's coming from a place of who Kevin is, East Oakland, 2020. It's not David Hammond's 1985. You know what I mean? For those who know that reference. And then for those who don't, it's not the Black Power movement 1965. This is human rights, Black power, give us what is due to us 2020 into infinity. It has not ended. And I feel that that's what I'm always doing with my work. It's always trying to conjure up that spirit to saying that we're in a continuum. And I don't disgrace my history by looking at it as something that's just, it's the past, because we do that a lot, especially when we're young, that it's the past and we're in a new day. And I'm just going to click through some of these. These are some of the drawings from the last show I did. They're a mixture of print and drawing. This one is more print, where this one is more drawing. And yeah, I think that I will continue with that mission. I hope and pray that I can survive this anti-Black war and be here at 65 so that we can look back on all this time of articulating what this has been so that there can be an encyclopedia for hopefully people who are more free than I am today. So yeah, that is the end of my talk. I'm gonna leave it on another slide. I wanted to show that, but then that one I think is important. This was one of my first sketches when I was in undergrad. So it already shows you where my mind was at and where the world had put me. And I'm happy to say I've risen above that. All right. So that's my Instagram at the top, weighted by gold. Follow me. I do follows back. I just haven't gotten to it recently because I'm not on it all the time. And yeah, check out the work on my website. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kevin. And if anyone has any questions or has some feedback or want to start a dialogue, you may unmute. I think everyone can unmute themselves. And yeah.
Kevin, this is Sam Vernon. I just want to thank you so much for this talk tonight. I can only imagine how difficult it must be giving a talk on the same things that are flooding our feeds and just making it very difficult to sustain a kind of hope in this time. So I just wanted to thank you, and also just tell you that I teach at CCA, and I have students who have brought your work to me. And I hope that we get a chance to connect, and I'd love to have you visit one of my classes. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's amazing to hear that. So I appreciate it to you, appreciate it to them for bringing that work to you. Wow, now I'm going to see so many. I didn't get in the room.
I have a question. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yes. As well, just to piggyback off what Sam said. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your work. In the words of Kanye, shit cray. But my question for you is this notion of thinking about like your mortality, like on a consistent basis. I don't know if this is an annoying question, but like, what is self-care like for you? Because like to constantly think about your mortality is like a really fucked up thing that like is also very common amongst Black people. Yes, and then also super quickly before you answer my question, I want to share as you were speaking, I thought about the Jaheim's Just in Case I Don't Make It Home Tonight, like that music video as you're describing has notion of like hoping to make it back home. But anyway, sorry, so my question was, what does your self-care look like?
I'm so glad you said that. So funny thing, my older brother is in the room. I remember saying to him years ago, I said, we should do this movement where all Black people should go and register just to like get a license to get firearms. And I was saying this as a joke at the time, but I was saying we should play the Jaheim video in the background, make it viral. It was like, just in case I don't make it home tonight. I go through with that, but I remember thinking that, that's my way of making jokes, right? Like, and it's not something to make light of, but in a way, it's like, I think humor is one of the few ways that I, soothe my soul. And so, but I do it in public, I don't do it in public ways, I do it in private ways. So people who are very close to me know I make jokes at the oddest times, but I have to build that trust with you so that I'm not trying to harm you in those moments, right? Or harm myself. So yeah, but if you get to know me a little bit more, because I'm kind of a private person, I make a lot of jokes, and most of the time, like those jokes will be like what that with the Jaheim video, or just me being like, you know what? Like, I think that this work would be funny if I positioned it here, even though this work is super dark, when you look at it. But I'm just like, oh, isn't it funny that like when you walk in the room, like you're gonna get hit with that, So like that's how I think, and that's how I bring some kind of like, like softness to the reality.
Hey, sorry, I forgot I was muted. Hey, Kevin. We haven't talked in ages. I met Kevin working at an art store, and we've stayed in touch intermittently. I'm getting my MFA now. So, hey. Let me see. I just wanted to ask, I guess, what are your thoughts behind the foam letters on the prints and drawings? I know they relate to the humor, but I was wondering how you came to choose those, as a format.
Yeah. I got them for free. I'm really big into, like I said, I think that the definition of detritus or garbage, or however you may look at it, often is just, it starts with being unwanted or undesired, right? And then it kind of falls into a state of decay. And so when I got these foam letters, I was like, wow, okay, these things are really cool to me. But they were considered like, just like a child's craft that wasn't wanted at the art store because it just hadn't sold. And I was like, I think this could actually bring the true power to these prints that I was looking for. And again, it's just kind of like how the Emmett Till image, like earlier when I was doing the mattress work, it wouldn't be as powerful if it wasn't on a mattress out in the street. So I love that kind of inverse of what really holds power. And I think that those subtle, moments where material is speaking to the subjugation of my identity is when I'm really activated. So that's why I picked it. Thank you for that question. Good question.
Hey, Kevin, I've got a follow-up question on that. I was wondering while you were talking, well, first of all, thank you for sharing your work with us. And I really appreciated the kind of autobiographical context that you gave for the work that you're making. And I had a question about the materials and your process and how much planning do you do? Like, do you set out thinking, oh, I need to go find a mattress to be able to realize this idea I have? Or do you collect materials and like store them until you figure out what to do with them?
Yeah, I do. The reason why I'm laughing is because I have, made my mother go gray several times over. She's not fully gray. She would get mad at me if she heard. She did hear me say that. But the thing is that I collect so many objects, and I just like kind of sit with them. So if you saw my studio, and I hope you come by soon, Lisa, when we can, right? Because we are still in coronavirus on top of anti-Black war. But yeah, I collect so many objects, and I sit with them, and I let them kind of speak to me. In the case of when I had the mattress, of course, that's why it wasn't why I bought it or why we had it, but I had the Chevy Silverado, so I was able to put a full mattress in the back. So I had that mattress. I was driving around with it. And I think I kind of like that. I like art that feels absurd at times, but then it hits you with its sophistication, right? Like, okay, what it's articulating to you. And I think why I started with that image of me as a young boy is because I got that reaction so many times of people saying like, wow, you are genuinely smart, and we know what's going on with that, right? But I think that I love to see these objects. I say, okay, you're kind of thrown away, but I see potential in you. And I know you're about to give me a powerful way in which to articulate this narrative that's inside of me. Thank you for that.
What's up, Kev? I wanted to say great talk there. I'm Kevin's big cousin, and it's good for me. I've seen a lot of your work, but I hadn't had a chance to see your recent work when you was out in Chicago and everything. So I've seen a lot of those pieces. And then for me, I'm not a very artistic person. I'd be the first to say, but just being able to see how you can express yourself through those pieces, knowing what you're trying to get across, what you're trying to convey, and the audience, observing it and then getting our own feelings and emotions from it. And it just shows kind of just, it's such a brilliant intellectual mind. You're talking about you as a young Black man. You're showing things from, 2014, I'm sure even before then, that's still relevant to what's going on right now. So, I mean, just kind of brings things full circle as far as kind of where we're at right now and where we've been. And you touched on Auntie back in the day, those days back in the 60s, but, like in our generation, still going through those same things. So, like I say, being able to express that in a piece we put together, that's just amazing. Something I'm not talented enough to do. But I mean, like I say, it's great that you were able to put those pieces together and share them with us. So I appreciate you.
I appreciate you both. I want to say that I got so much family in the room right now And I look up to those two brothers right there, my cousins JD and Eric. So it is a big deal to have you guys here.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, Kev. So I just wanted to ask a question. You went into, some of your research and where you're sourcing your imagery from, and your, techniques for various elements with the barricades and the print and the letters and things. But I was interested if you could speak a little bit more on how you settled on your painting style, with the flat colors and the blocking and things like that, and how you feel like that enhances the message.
Right. Thank you for asking me that. That's Alex Younger. We go way back and even to now. So I appreciate you coming, Alex. Here's the thing. I don't consider myself to have a painting style. I do think that it's a tool I employ, but the reason why I ended up doing that is I really wanted to make a stained glass window, and I didn't like some of the attempts I made that tried to make it more realistic. I always felt like one of my running jokes was that I was in the painting department to begin with. I feel like sometimes I even look back and go like, how did I end up there? Why did I stay? Because I really am just sculpting all the time, but I think it's that kind of thing of that it felt quite absurd. And I love that about it. So, but I think in terms of the part you asked, Alex, about how it enhances the message, is I think that that's another kind of like trick. I feel like I'm sneaking in a narrative when I give you something that could be seen as just a geometric abstraction. And then if you give it the time to sit with it, you might be hit with another narrative. And I think that more often than none, it's constantly, I'm doing self-portraits of that people I see so many times in my life. And I know many of you in this room, despite your, whatever your background may be, you felt this way where people have this perception of you and you feel it. And then you give them like a complete 180. And that is just like my everyday. It seems like the minute I open my mouth, people go like, what's going on with this guy? So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, we're good, bud.
I talk to her like that all the time, so she knows what I'm saying.
Hey, Kevin. Adelina.
Okay. Adelina. Adelina, I see you. Okay, that's what. Okay.
First, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. We've been in touch for several years now, but I don't think I've heard you walk through it that way, or I haven't had the privilege of hearing it, and it was just really powerful to hear. And as a new mom, hearing you talk about your mom concerned about you going in and out like today, like that is just that's heavy. And I don't think that's even the right word, but just like it really just brings, like, I know that I'm privileged as a non-Black person, but I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there are so many layers to it that I can never comprehend, no matter how much reading I do and no matter how much, I invest in learning about being anti-racist, and letting go of my own internalized racism as a person of color and as a woman of color. But I just think like storytelling is so powerful. So I just appreciate you sharing your story. My question is like, and really coming from a place of understanding that it is not your job as a Black man to teach any non-Black folks like how to be, supportive and move out the way and all of that. But I'm just wondering, is there a call to action that your work is offering? Is there like at the end of, as you're doing it, is there something, or is it more for the Black community to see, your experience visually, or do you have a target audience? And if what is, if there is a call to action, what would that be, or what is that?
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing question. And I wouldn't expect anything less. We always have such amazing conversations. Okay, I will say that the idea of a call to action is not at the forefront of my mind. And why that is because I think I'm always thinking about what's left behind, right? So even in the process of saying these are archives, these are objects that I want you to be able to find, almost like you would find the pyramids, right? That's how I go into it thinking that maybe 50, 60, 70 years, especially the ones that survive, okay, this was articulating something that a young Black person felt about their experience. And in a way, kind of being, a history writer. I would say that my audience is always young Black people. And I feel that the reason why that is because I know how voiceless and how ignored I felt as a high schooler. And I think about how I want them to be able to say that they see themselves in that work without having to physically see themselves. So that's more or less what I'm doing. And when people come to me who's not a part of that target audience and they're moved by the work, and I'm always so appreciative when that takes place, I always say, take whatever you are moved by, take whatever lesson you may take from this work, and take it to your community and have real conversations, right? Because I think about even throughout this second pandemic, right, of Black death, so many people who come to me with goodwill, and I appreciate them coming to me about like, what can I do, or what can I do for you? And I always want them to go to their community and talk to their people, not bring it to me who lives it every day, and I know it.
Yeah, thank you.
You. Oh, and how did Willow I did the nursery in your house. How did Willow like the nursery?
Oh, she loves it. I almost took the call over there, but she's like supposed to be going to sleep right now. But yeah, Kevin painted this beautiful mural, and she's 9 months, and now she really can appreciate it. And I was contemplating this the other day. I was like, you know what? Out of every gift we got, this was by far the most special gift given to us. So thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you. I'm just happy the baby liked it. So cool. Cool. Are there any other thoughts or questions?
Hey, Kev. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hey, is that you, K2?
Yes, this is Kelly.
Okay.
I really appreciate you sharing your work, similar to everyone else. I've always had the opportunity to see you in the process of getting the work done, but I never seen it as a whole. So to hear you walk through it is really a privilege, and I appreciate you allowing me to join you in this sharing it. My question is, if you find yourself being one of few or the only Black man in a space, and times that we're experiencing now, how do you bring up these tough conversations to people that either ignore it actively or just don't know? And how do you avoid being for instance, if I was to bring up what is happening today in society to a team that's predominantly Asian and white, how do I speak on it in a way where I'm not asking for them to apologize to me as a Black man or to come up with solutions, but how do you open up for a discussion and allow for just a free going conversation and avoid being offended by ignorance? If that makes sense, because there's going to be ignorance in the conversation where it's how do you not know this? But I understand that we are surrounded by people that are actively ignoring it or have been brought up in households where they didn't have to face the experiences like me and you as Black men. So how do you bring it up and be confident in it in a space where you're alone?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked this. And I just want to say that Kelly, I'm going to say how you, because you introduced yourself that way. I call you K2 when we hung out all the time. Has been with me through a lot of those early works. So, he saw the mattresses. Anyways, I just want to say to your question that the way I do it is I believe that you have to lead with honesty. Um, because there is, I believe, an alchemical power to honesty. Um, I tell people my true experience. I don't filter it, and I'm not aggressive in the process of. I don't discredit anyone if they were to be, but this is my lived reality. And when people bring me ignorance, I tend to either not engage with it, or if I have brought up this topic, like say we're in this discussion, and maybe someone said something that I felt was wrong, right, just blatantly wrong, I would say, I feel that's wrong what you have said. I keep it completely open and honest about what it is that we're experiencing. That's why I led this talk by opening up and saying it's an anti-Black war, because that's truly what it is. But I would say that lead with courage, work on that part of yourself. Not saying that you don't have that, but I just mean in terms of, I think we should all tap into our spaces of courage when dealing with things like this, because ignorance will try to, diminish courage. And I believe that that's the beginning of speaking truth to power, right? Really saying, like, this is what the reality of my situation is, and I'm going to say it. And if you even want to kill me for it, so be it, you know? And I really resolved myself to that somewhere around the time where I was about to leave to go to graduate school. So around 2015, when we were spending a lot of time together, I resolved myself to that that's who I am. That's who I'm going to be.
Thank you.
Hi, Kevin. Hello. Oh,
I hear you. Okay, wait. Who's speaking?
it's Yana.
Yana, my German friend.
Hi. Wie
Yeah.
geht's?
There you go. There you go.
Um, yeah, I also have never heard you speak about your work in such a in-depth way, and it's been such an honor. And it's also really great to be in conversation with another Black person about artwork right now. It's been challenging for me to stay kind of creative right now. I feel really sad, obviously, and really stuck. And so I guess my question for you is more so on if you have any advice on staying creative and staying actively engaged in a artistic way right now, especially for artists like me who have just graduated undergrad and kind of been thrown into the world at this crazy time. If you have any advice for me or for those of you in this room who are in the same position.
You know what I tell myself every day, Yana? And it's funny, I'll make you laugh, so I'll say it in German. I say, ich habe meine Grenzen, right? Which is, for everybody else, we have our limits, right? There are points where you have to say, okay, it's time to reflect. It's time to pause, right? But if the desire is burning in you, I think, to continue to work, I always lead with that point of saying that it is important to be seen, right? I just remember that was kind of how we became friends, right? Of just, it's like we see each other, right, in totality. And so I think about how much healing you could provide someone else, and that drives me. And then I think about all the healing that you can provide yourself through the process of making. So I'm actually in the midst where I'm making way more than I was before, but it doesn't feel like better always, So like I just feel this burning desire to be like, I see the people who are being called looters, who are being called violent, who are being called crazy. I see you, And I also want to note that I lead with this idea of this is a Black space because this is what I create, right? But outside of my creation, I understand that this oppression is just across the board, right? So I understand that, okay, I have to show up because not only for racism, sexism, homophobia, you know what I mean? Transphobia, show up for it. And I think that with your work, especially how powerful it is, and you should check out Donna's work if not, it's going to be so healing for the communities, the multiple ones you live within, that I say if you lead with that, I think it'll get the gears going.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say, I don't know if we're close to the end, but I just think we have a little bit more time, but I'm just really thankful for everybody who's here, for so many people here today.
Hey, Kevin, I just wanted to say thank you for speaking to us.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Hey, Ian, there you are. Okay, dope. I was trying to. I'm still learning Zoom. I have to teach a class on Zoom pretty soon. I've been doing a lot, but I've been doing a lot. But the one thing is, I be pinning the video, and sometimes I don't. And so I was like, that's why I be looking around. You know, I'm getting it together.
I can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can see you too.
I just wanted to say thank you for like taking the time and like giving this like really educational like experience for me at least. Like hearing you talk about your work. I've always been like such an admirer of your work, like ever since I met you back at CCA back in the day, man. And it's like really cool seeing your work expand ever and ever again. Like it's just sick as fuck as always. I don't have any like particular questions, but I just wanted to express that to you, man. I'm always like super into it. And cool seeing your work come out always.
Thank you, man. You know, me and Ian goes back so far, right? We used to do the dorms together. You have some of my old boots. Remember my boots? Got you?
Yeah, still got that shit. Yeah, yep.
Those things I told you they were like.
Even though it's like you earlier talking about like storing supplies, and it's like I still got that shit. Still waiting to make something out of it. I feel that, man. Yeah.
We always give each other the biggest hugs when we see each other, me and Ian. So it's awesome to see you, buddy.
Yeah, me too, man. I miss you, man.
Come to the studio sometime.
Yeah. Hit me up. Come around.
I almost want to make space. Is just anybody wanted to ask. My mom wants to ask a question. You can ask it either in Zoom or this way. How you want to ask the question? Yeah, go ahead and ask. She's here. She's gonna ask me the question directly, but I'm gonna answer it as if she's in the Zoom. Go ahead. Okay. Okay. Okay, yeah. So my mom kind of wants to know, all right, why do I use specific objects in the work, like whether it be the robe, like the one behind me, or like why I use the beans or anything like this. So I'm just gonna say a blanketed answer, maybe zoom in on one type, which is that for me, I'm really drawn to objects that have multiple histories. Some of my friends in here who like I've like given them my statement or they've used it or we've like exchanged writing before, they know that that's how I lead any writing that I have, of saying that like objects that have multiple histories that can bring contemplation through those multiple histories. And so like with this jute rope, you know, this rope takes on a whole different meaning when it's wrapped like this or when it takes on the noose, right? I like that interplay between it being like a corrosive vine or being able to be turned into this weapon of terror, right? It has this long history of subjugation within my community. So I think like that, where I go, okay, you're saying one thing, but can it say 3 or 4 things at the same time? Does it speak multiple languages, you know? And like, even like that moment when me and Yana are speaking where it's like, oh, you know, it just activates another part of my heart when I hear her ask me like, how are you in German, you know? So like that, you know? any questions from people who have not been able to ask them. I'd love to catch them before we all say goodnight. Okay. Well, then maybe that's a good point, right? Thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate you. I want to give a big shout out to my friend Ray Lease and my friend Rebecca in the building. Ray Lease is a master painter. I got to say that, right? Just a master painter. Follow him too. It's just Ray Lease, right? I'm going to show you to my students at Berkeley City College. This dude is a beast. So just want to say that. Just thankful to all of my friends and family who's here. Nick, also, Nick is an amazing painter. He went to the same school as Ray Lease. They're going to Columbia, or Nick went to Columbia. Just dope people. Oh, in the room. I didn't even see you. Okay, Alexandra is a painter as well. Just amazing. Yeah, amazing. And then also Ray Lease, this is the friend I told you about, right? Also the other Dominican painter.
Hey, hello, okay.
There we go. See, different languages. This is what I'm talking about. You know what I mean?
Kevin, we missed you.
Yeah.
When are you returning back to Blake? When is Blake opening back up?
Man, I don't work there no more. I do not work there no more because I work at, that's my colleague Lisa. I work at Berkeley City College as a adjunct professor now. But, you know, I don't know when they're opening back up because I got some kits for my students set up, and I really hope that things work out. But it's probably because of protests, you know.
Yeah, they're doing like curbside pickup, but it's just, you know, it's complicated not being able to get in the store and like get your hands in there, you know.
See, this is how much of a painter Alexandra is. Do you see? Wait, where's Ray Lee's face? Do you see how much of a painter this person is? They just trying to get back in the studio. You know what I mean? So I hope you guys connect. But yes, I want to just address some of the questions in the chat just really fast. Yeah, for the people who have asked me if I sell work, I do. Just hit me up. Instagram, we work that out. Oh yes, and I do have a class for Berkeley City College. I have 3 classes that I'm going to be teaching. A intro, a intermediate, and an advanced drawing class. I believe you still could register. You can do it throughout until the, I want to say 13th. Is that right? The police is still in the building. Either way, yeah. Feel like coming to class? Come on down. Okay, that's all my shameless self-promotion that I possibly have in me. I want to thank you all for coming to this talk. I really appreciate it. It's just been like having a round table with my family. Like that's how this feels. You know, and even for those who haven't spoke, I've seen your face. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Kevin, for your talk and your work. We're really excited that you are at RTS, and we look forward to what you will be offering in the future. Thank you, everyone, for coming and being a part of this artist talk. We look forward to seeing you in the near future. Everyone stay safe and take care.
Thank you, Kito.
Of course.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Bye, Kevin. Have a good night.
Love you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Thank you, Kevin. Love you.
Bonne nuit, mon amour. I love you, man. Take it easy.
I'll see you later. Yeah, thank you. Tequila was in the building. I don't know if Tequila was in the building. Okay, now I'm going to sign out. Bye-bye.